Jack couldn't understand it no matter how hard he tried. After his reincarnation, the goddess had changed his gender, turning him into a girl. As he grew older, men started taking an interest in him, and one even wanted to sleep with Jack. In this place, the god's commands were as powerful as a king's, and to make matters worse, Jack was an ordinary person with no magical abilities. However, what others didn't know was that Jack had intentionally caused all of this. In his previous life, Jack had been the world's strongest warrior, but he had sacrificed his own life to protect the world. This life, Jack only wanted to slowly grow stronger and reach the highest level of martial arts. Therefore, when testing his talents, Jack deliberately hid his magical powers and appeared as an ordinary person with no abilities. The important thing was that even his seemingly silly sister, Leah, possessed top-tier magical powers. Not having any magic meant Jack could never become a knight, which was a huge shame in this noble family. But his parents didn't look down on him. They believed that as long as their daughter was happy, that was enough. However, Jack didn't see it that way. He needed an opportunity to fight once. Thus, Jack suggested being Leah's attendant. Jack thought this would allow him to stay out of the spotlight while still practicing martial arts. His family didn't suspect anything and were moved by his suggestion. Leah was the happiest, as this meant they could always be together. Time passed quickly, and both of them grew up. Tonight, they were attending a banquet. Every 2.5 years, people from the royal city would come for an inspection. However, this was the first time a god would accompany them. Every 2.5 days, rainbow rain would fall from the sky in this world. Though it had no effect on humans, animals caught in the rain could turn into magical beasts, some of which were powerful enough to destroy entire nations. Humans were unaffected because the gods provided magical weapons to protect them, but in exchange, humans had to supply large amounts of resources to the gods. While Jack was lost in thought, he suddenly realized that everyone was staring at him. In a panic, Jack asked Leah to block their gaze. The most important thing was that Jack had originally been an old man and had no interest in romance. At that moment, Leah saw her father talking to a man, a member of the Night Brigade named Alan, along with Jack's older brother Jason. Alan had heard of Jack and Leah before. Just then, someone else approached. It was the royal city's inspector. When Jack saw the god who had arrived, he was shocked. This was someone Jack had once defeated, but for some unknown reason, this person had become a god. It had been many years since they had met, and Jack couldn't believe that this person now held such a powerful position. Mike knew exactly what Jack was thinking, but the mark on his forehead was a symbol of his status. Mike had given all his wealth to the gods, and though he had given up everything, he still felt it was worth it, for in the eyes of the gods, humans were no different from ants. Jack didn't take this to heart. He was only interested in practicing martial arts, but Mike kept talking to him, saying how much more handsome Jack had become. He had also heard Jack was an ordinary person without magic. If Jack had no abilities, what use would practicing martial arts be? At that moment, Alan walked over. He suddenly remembered that he had something important to tell Jack, something that would always appear when the Night Brigade was present. Jack quickly gave the correct answer. Alan said that martial arts tools, once they reached a certain level, could transform into human form, and led the way to show it. Driven by curiosity, Jack temporarily let go of Mike and couldn't disappoint Alan, who had helped both him and Leah. On the surface, it seemed as if humans and the gods coexisted equally, but in reality, the gods controlled the life and death of humans. Only the gods could create magical tools, and without the proper magic, the tools were useless. Therefore, sometimes, one still had to please the gods. Alan jokingly said that he would even lick the gods' shoes for magical tools. Leah couldn't help but retort, saying that the holy knights were the hope of humanity, and if people with abilities acted like this, what would become of ordinary people? Alan shrugged it off. At that moment, Jack saw a special grade magical tool. It was designed to fight the strongest magical beasts, but to Jack's surprise, it had taken the form of a beautiful girl named Alice.